All right. We'll call the Newman City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of April 13th order, please. Please stand. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
Dear Heavenly Father, please give us the sage wisdom tonight to make the correct decisions for the city of Newman and the residents of Newman. Amen.
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 Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina.
Present.
Mayor King.
Present. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we'll move to item 6, ceremonial matters. And we have one item this evening. It's a proclamation of Library Week. And I believe Barbara is present. So would you please step down? I'm not going to bore you with reading of this whole proclamation, but however, the city as well as the library would like to encourage everybody to attend the library and read and check out books and read to your children and much you can. But I'll just read a short part of it. Whereas libraries offer preschool story times and summer reading programs to encourage children to begin a habit of reading that will serve the benefit of their personal and professional lives. And to end this, I'll just say now, therefore, I, Ed Caton, Mayor of the City of Newman, do hereby proclaim April 11 through 17, 2010, National Library Week in the City of Newman, and urge everyone to visit libraries and to take advantage of the wonderful resources that they provide to our community. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to say some words, please do.
Please use it or lose it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Any member of the public wish to address the council this evening, please step forward. Seeing none, we'll move to item 8, consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions set by title. B, approval of the warrants. C, approval of the minutes of the March 23rd, 2010 regular meeting. D, approval of the city manager contract extension and amendment. E, adoption resolution 2010 next to number, a resolution rejecting the claim of Maria Gonzalez.
I'll make a motion. We accept the consent calendar as is.
I second that motion.
Been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go to item 9, public hearings. A is adopt resolution number 2010 next to number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under nuisance ordinance number 95-4.
Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead, Chief.
I didn't know how we were going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Apology for confusion. That item actually won't be necessary. The resident was able to comply prior to tonight's meeting. So
Outstanding.
we won't need to declare it as a nuisance.
Outstanding. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to next item is going to be B, another public hearing. Second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2010 next to number, an ordinance amending Title 9 police regulations prohibiting the consumption of alcoholic beverage in public and authorize staff to prepare and publish a summary of said ordinance.
Good evening. This is the second reading of the ordinance number 210, an ordinance prohibiting the consumption of alcoholic beverages in public. Consumption of alcoholic beverages in public place is frequently in various locations of the city, such as Main Street. The public department frequently receives phone calls and complaints regarding this issue. The proposed ordinance would make it illegal to consume an alcoholic beverage in public in areas in parking lots, streets, alleys, and sidewalks. The new ordinance provides that anyone consuming alcoholic beverage in public, unless permission is granted, is guilty of a misdemeanor or administrative violation. Staff recommends adopting the ordinance as written.
Any questions of Officer Borden before we open public hearing? Okay, public hearing is open. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council for direction.
I so move the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2010 next number, an ordinance amending Title 9 police regulations prohibiting the consumption of alcoholic beverages in public and authorize staff to prepare and publish a summary of said ordinance.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go to item C. The next public hearing is second reading and adoption of ordinance 2010 next number, a ordinance eliminating the time limit on accruing debt and extending the time limitations for the effectiveness of redevelopment plan and a repayment of debt for the Newman redevelopment project, and authorize staff to prepare and publish a summary of said ordinance. Hi, Steph.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you is the second reading of ordinance 2010 next to number, which will eliminate the redevelopment agency's time limit for incurring debt and extend the time limitation for plan effectiveness and debt repayment. As discussed at our last meeting, this ordinance is necessary prior to the 2010 redevelopment plan update, which is scheduled for next month. It's pretty basic. It's in compliance with new state laws that allow us to change our debt limits, and it will result in 7 new pass-through agreements. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Stephanie before we open up public hearing? All right, public hearing is now open. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing. Bring it back to council for direction.
I make a motion that we approve second reading and adoption of ordinance number 210, next number, an ordinance eliminating the time limit on incurring debt and extending the time limitation for the effectiveness of the redevelopment plan and the repayment of debt for the Newman redevelopment project, and authorize staff to prepare and publish a summary of said ordinance.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There's been a late walk-in, a person who would like to address the council on a non-agenda item. Mrs. Mass, we'd like to take the podium, please, and state your case, since you were late. It's okay. We'll digress a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure you got good news.
I do. I have great news.
All right.
I know I am tardy. I'm really sorry, and I do apologize. But today is Tuesday, so, give us a break. Would you please?
You have a newspaper to put out?
We have a newspaper deadline. I just want to thank the city, as I don't know if all of you know, but this Saturday we are going to be having a downtown planting day, so I hope to see some council members and the mayor there. And this discussion has started because of your public works department and also city manager, who requested that we repot the pots downtown. And they were looking a little shady.
With plants, right? Not pots.
With the plants, not pot. Well, I don't know. Revenues are down. It might be a good idea. I don't know. No, just kidding. So I just want to report a couple of things out of that to you, and create some enthusiasm for the community and for the city. We started out with thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to get the money to do this? And I am pleased and also sad in a lot of respects. As you know, we lost a beautiful person in December of 2009 by the name of Ricky Dykes, who was a wonderful person for our downtown community and kept a watchful eye on Newman. And many beautiful citizens from this community contributed towards Ricky's burial expense account, which Jim Jasper and I kind of oversaw. And we had some money left over because of very generous contributions to that account. And I spoke with city manager Michael about dedicating a bench in downtown in honor of Ricky, which he presented to you, and you so graciously said yes, and I thank you for that. So this Saturday, in addition to the planting, the money left over from Ricky's account will help to purchase some of those plants for the downtown pots, which we thought to be extremely benefiting to Rick, and something that he would be smiling and saying yes. And in addition to that, we bought this beautiful plaque, which will be put on one of those benches, and the one in front of Rabobank and J Styles and more. And I just want to tell you, I'm so excited to present this to the city. It's a beautiful plaque. It is so Rick, with his photo on it, and at the bottom it has his dates, of course, and then it says, "Your zest for life and love of your community will always be remembered. Newman loves you, Rick." And any of you know that Rick, he always was, Newman loves me, the theater loves me, and his newspaper loved him. And so this is really appropriate. So I'm so excited because this arrived today. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I also got this weekend confirmation from the after-school program through the school district who will be contributing $1,000 towards the purchase of the downtown plants. And the garden club portion of the after-school program is one of the groups that will be coming downtown once a month to do the maintenance on the pots. And then the Oristema High School FFA garden group will also be coming downtown once a month. So those pots will have overall maintenance done to them twice a month. And then the city crews will obviously be doing, sprinklers and extensive work to them. But the pots will be fully planted this weekend. In addition to that, we will be doing many of the tree wells in the downtown area with the asparagus ferns. And through the generosity of Rick Dykes, the after-school program, and many wonderful downtown businesses, we will be fully funded for this weekend, and in addition to that, have some money left over for replacement plants, just in case the police department doesn't keep up with the little hoodlums in the town, as Rick used to call them. So I'm just pleased to report to you wonderful, exciting news about community support, a really great program, the beautiful plaque. And thank you for your cooperation from the city, and just to let you know that the schools are very much buying into this, and we're really excited about that working relationship with them. So just happy news. I am sorry to be late for your meeting, but I just wanted to let you know how exciting it is for
That's
this
right.
weekend.
That is exciting. And
Yeah.
Ricky's smiling.
Yes, he is
He's
definitely smiling.
Susan, what time Saturday?
Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. We will be meeting at the Clock Tower. We will have coffee, donuts, and juice to start off. We're going to do a really quick little orientation to everyone who's showing up, let them know exactly how it's going to be working. And then we'll do this little presentation for Rick, Jim Jasper, and Kirk Jensen, Ricky's friend, will be there. So we want to do a photo op. We'd love to have a city represented, Mr. Mayor. So we'll be doing a little photo op with that. And then from there on, then we will be doing the planting. If everything goes right, which I believe it will, I'm really excited, and Ricky is smiling down on us, we will have another planting day, probably mid-May, to finish off all of the tree wells with the asparagus ferns. I'm hoping we will have enough money to make that happen. So 131 tree wells later, 31 pots. We are well vested. So thank you so much. Appreciate it very
I'll
much.
gladly forgo my 9 o'clock tea time.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. This is green work of the other kind. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Susan.
so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, where were we? Public hearings, 9, and section D. This is going to be approval of the Stanislaus County CDBG Annual Action Plan, fiscal year 2010-2011, and closed 30-day public comment period. Stephanie.
Good evening again. At the March 9th meeting, the council released the draft annual action plan to the public and set the public hearing date for tonight. As previously discussed, the annual action plan is required to receive CDBG funding. This year, staff is also requesting council approval not only of the 2010-2011 annual action plan, but also the amendment to the 2008-2009 NSP annual action plan and an amendment to the 2007 through 2012 consolidated plan. Approval of the plan and these amendments will allow the city to receive CDBG funding, utilize NSP funds for first-time home buyer programs, and identify the county as the lead home administrator for the home consortia. Staff recommends approval of the annual action plan and the above-mentioned amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Stephanie before I open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, public hearing is open. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing nobody, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for direction.
I'll make a motion for approval of the Stanislaus County CDBG Annual Action Plan fiscal year 2010-2011 and close 30-day public comment period.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Tom, do we need any language talking about the amendments, or does that all encompass it? For the amendments to the other plans? Because that is written in the staff report. Do we need to make a comment about that on the motion?
If it did include it, yeah.
Could we amend the motion to include those amendments as well, Councilman?
Nick, would you like to amend your motion?
To include the two amendments as, in addition to the annual action plan.
Okay. We'll
Yes.
include those two amendments.
Thank you.
Would you like to amend your second?
I'll amend my second.
The motion and second has been amended. Everybody still concur now in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Again.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Okay, we'll go to item 10, regular business. A is adopt resolution 2010, next number, resolution approving the application for grant funds for the urban greening planning grant program under the Safe Drinking Water, Water Quality and Supply, Flood Control, River and Coastal Protection Bond Act of 2006, Proposition 84.
Hello again. Last one. Before you is the resolution 2010 next number approving the city's application for the urban greening grant in conjunction with the Great Valley Center. The urban greening grant program is funded through 2006's Prop 84. In this application, the city would be requesting funding for the creation of an urban greening plan, which will assist the city in meeting its SB 732 requirement. The Great Valley Center will write and manage the grant. Staff time will be primarily due to data provision and general grant support. All grant-related time by staff is eligible for reimbursement under the grant. The city hopes to receive $250,000, and there is no match requirement. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2010 next in number.
Any questions of Stephanie? If not, bring it council for direction.
I so move for approval of resolution number 2010 next number, a resolution approving the application for grant funds for the Urban Greening Plan Grant Program under the Safe Drinking Water, Water Quality and Supply, Flood Control, River and Coastal Protection Bond Act of 2006.
Wow.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to, next item is B, report on boat/RV off-street parking ordinance options. Chief, you have a riveting report.
Riveting. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is a discussion item only, the staff seeking direction from you on how to proceed. Some historical data, you have the memo from me in front of you. Best as we can tell, at least the ordinance in its current form originated in a couple different ways, portions in 97 and other portions in 98, and then the latest revisions occurred in 2007. Specifically in 2007, the language added was vehicles parked on lawns or other areas of front yards, side yards, not behind a solid fence 6 feet in height, where such vehicles plainly visible from the street or other public or private property other than on a driveway is prohibited. That was added in 2007 along with a number of other quality of life type ordinances. It was really when the city initiated the strong code enforcement program. The first code enforcement officer was hired and during that year as well. Sort of what, at least our belief of what's brought this to today's discussion was over the last couple of years, various times throughout that period, either from council direction or sometimes from the planning department, from resident complaints, prompted the police department to enforce this particular ordinance and specifically the section dealing with boats. In 2008, a citywide initiative was conducted by the code enforcement officer at that time. Unfortunately, the department, because of resources and we lost that employee, we did not follow up with the second wave, so to speak, of that campaign. So no formal enforcement was taken, only the warning notices were issued. So those that complied, and those that did not, and then there was no consequences as a result of that. And then between that period and the current campaign that went across the entire city, it was just on a case-by-case basis as calls were received from residents or other members of the public or the council brought up a particular location or officers or the code enforcement officer on a patrol happened upon a violation. And that's how it was enforced in the in-between period. And then early this year, the issue was raised again on one particular location from a complaint, and that person was contacted, which led to other folks in the neighborhood, or that person saying, well, so-and-so has a boat as well, why aren't they getting one? So-and-so, so-and-so, and which is a fairly common problem. Folks will drive around, take photographs, or provide us with addresses and say, if I got one, why isn't everyone else? Which is a reasonable argument. And we heard that in early 2010, so I instructed the code enforcement officer to once again conduct a citywide campaign, but not in any effort to write tickets or collect revenue or anything like that. It was strictly for compliance. We went out the first time and issued about 40 to 50 warning notices, which on the notice calls for a 10-day period to move it. We didn't get back to those folks until more like 2 to 3 weeks, just other demands and so on. Most of those, 50% of those complied, leaving about 20 boats remaining in the city. Once again, we issued another warning to those 20 instead of, we obviously could have elected to write the citation at that point. Issued a second warning to those folks, and of those 20, 7 more voluntarily complied, leaving about 13. So now we're about 5 weeks into this warning, 10-day warning process, and the 13 remaining boats, efforts were attempted to individually contact those people. Obviously we weren't successful in all of them. People are at work, not at home, etc. And those that we were able to talk to personally, we did. And those that weren't home or didn't answer the door for whatever purpose, we did not. But those 13 were issued citations under the existing ordinance as it stands today. So that's sort of how we got here, at least our historical view of how it happened. The ordinance is fairly clear. We believe that it provides very clear direction to all city departments that really have a hand in this. The planning department, public works, police will really sort of all have a piece of this puzzle. We believe it provides very clear direction, and our concerns, obviously, if modifications are made to the ordinance, which certainly we'll follow whatever direction the council instructs us. Our concerns, though, in interest of full disclosure, is if we make the ordinance very subjective, then my idea of a treasure is another person's idea of junk, and now you're putting us in a very difficult position to say what's pretty and what's not. I just think of the scenario of maybe an $80,000 beautiful boat, ski boat, and it's orange and yellow and it's fancy and it's only 2 years old. But one neighbor may think that's the ugliest boat they've ever seen, and they don't want it in their neighbor's driveway or side yard, even though it's an $80,000 boat. And it just creates, I think, a very difficult situation for the police department and staff to try to interpret subjectively what's a nuisance and what is not. So we would just ask you to consider that when you make your decision, and on how we should proceed with the ordinance. I think it would be difficult. We could take a stab at it, but I do believe it would be difficult to try to modify the ordinance to say that some boats are allowed and some boats are not. I don't know how do we decide what that acceptable level is. And then something that really hasn't come up. The ordinance, we're talking about boats, but the ordinance really deals with all recreation vehicles. So now do we bifurcate out somehow boats? Well, now what about the motorhome owners or the trailers and the fifth wheels? I just think we have the potential to open a door here that we may not want to see what's on the other side. And I know we've taken a lot of strides over the last few years trying to improve our code enforcement and quality of life issues, and I'm just concerned that any modification could cause us to step back in that effort. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm sure there's some folks here that would like to address this issue with you as well, and I can answer questions now or as they come up, whatever you prefer.
Any member of the council wish to ask the chief any questions as on the presentation of the ordinance at this point in time?
I just had one, Chief.
Yes.
Explanation of the 72 hours. I think that's been circumvented so many times that it doesn't seem to hold water. My concern is that people have moved their trailers or RVs or whatever else across the street or something like that, and then that starts all over again.
Good question, although it would not apply in this situation. That's a more common problem with just the automobiles. This section allows for 72 hours for you to have your recreational vehicle, which includes a boat, at home. The intent being, at least we believe the council's intent was to load it, unload it, cleaning, minor maintenance, and then it goes back into storage or goes back on the trip, whatever it may be. I can extend that for an additional 72 hours on a case-by-case basis if a request is made, but no more than that, so we're at a maximum of 6. So in this particular situation we're talking about tonight, it would be irrelevant if they drove it across the street or moved it 6 inches. It can't be in the neighborhood at all. An automobile is what you're thinking of, and that is a very common problem where we play cat and mouse with a lot of people who will park their vehicle for 72 hours, which is the limit, and then we'll tag it, and then they'll move it across the street, up the road a little bit, and it starts that clock over. And that's a problem, but that doesn't really fit in tonight's situation.
Okay, I wasn't talking about cars, I was talking about an RV.
Would not apply to the RVs. They could not be there at all, whether they moved it or not.
Okay, it has happened. But anyway, just a clarification.
Yes.
Any other questions of the chief? I've been part of this process for many years, and it's been up and down, and I just don't want to see us digress. And I would be opposed to obviously striking the ordinance altogether. I think that just creates a whole other monster that we don't want to take on. The ordinance is in place for a reason. I mean, we like our city to stay beautiful, and we don't want our neighborhoods cluttered with cars, boats, trailers. I guess probably the unfortunate thing is for some boat owners who keep their boats covered, parked in their driveways, keep cobwebs off, things like that. It's still a violation of the ordinance, and the ordinance has been written by our staff and approved by our attorney. We ask our police department to enforce it. The only contentious part I had with the whole thing, and it's been a problem forever, is the consistency part of it. And I understand that, but we have limited staffing as well. And our CSO has been tasked also with animal control efforts now. So, and as in the chief's report, she's limited, and I know that she doesn't go out and just target certain people. She may not be able to cover the whole town as frequently as maybe we'd like. But personally, I would not favor throwing out the ordinance and just having a free-for-all. I'm not so sure I'd even be in favor of modifying it in any way. I don't think we should strike the boats from the ordinance, and not strike the ordinance in its entirety as well. So I would be more in support of option 1, which is maintain the existing ordinance as required, and we have to deal with the 13 citations that have gone unpaid, taken care of, and that's not going to sit well with people. I understand that, but I'm willing to listen to suggestions if anybody has a better idea, including those boat owners that might be in the audience who want to address the council for a better way. Mr. Souza?
My name is Mel Souza, live on Key Street. Like I said last time, my boat's been there for 10 years, and my neighbors have no problems with it. And I've been telling them what's going on. They can't believe it. They're stunned. So all I can say is, you guys are trying to make Newman a gated area. Fine. But if you don't clean up this whole town, you're going to set yourself for a lawsuit. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
My name is Bob Castro, and I have my boat out there. It's been well kept. Everything's nice. 5 years we've lived here. Every year this comes up. And it goes for 2 or 3 weeks, and then, like you say, nobody enforces anything. My deal is, if you're on a fixed income and stuff, now, I had my boat for 26 years, and it's in real good shape. Now, what do? That means I have to go out and pay another $100 or whatever to have it stored. I've got it licensed, boats tagged, everything, like it should be. Now, I don't, just doesn't make sense to me. I could understand eyesores. I mean, it's just like, we talk about eyesores, now that's what I would consider when you're talking about trailers, because I go by and there's trailers all over there parked. They look neat, they're out there, some on the side and out on the sidewalk type thing. What are you gonna, I mean, what do you do? They should be tagged according to the ordinance, like the chief says here, then everybody should be tagged. But I mean, it's just like picking on people, to me, you know. I don't know, I would look at it this way. San Lorenzo, I lived there for 30 years. They had basically the same thing here. But their deal was, is if it wasn't a mess, they wouldn't mess with it. But if there was, then you'd have a deal, a red tag on the door, and they were to pay a fine, which is understandable. I can understand that. But, you know, I mean, throwing this out, like I said, I've had it out there for 5 years, and none of my neighbors are complaining at all about it. And they having a hard time believing this too.
So are you saying then that just, I'm just throwing it out because the ordinance doesn't specify what's a good-looking boat and what's not a good-looking boat, or what's a good-looking trailer and what's not a good-looking trailer. It addresses boats, trailers, RVs, and et cetera. So, and like Chief said, I don't think it'd be fair of us to put it incumbent upon the code enforcement officer to determine what's a mess and what's not a mess, or what's an eyesore and what's not an eyesore.
Well, San Lorenzo had some way of doing it, and they would come around, and if it would, but I agree with you. If it looks bad, but tag it. It's got to be tagged. But if it's not, and it's been out there, it's well kept. I mean, and you've got all the proper, you know, your license. One of my neighbors got tagged for their car or something being out. Didn't have tags in the driveway. Okay. Well, my boat's trailer's there. It's tagged. My boat's licensed. So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems to be very unfair. You know, that's my thought on it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to address the council?
My name's Jeremy Addington. I live on Duckblind. I discussed it with you guys last time about the issue of a side yard, definition of a side yard, and where my boat is placed right now. And if you look in your references, a side yard is a yard between the sideline of the lot and the nearest line of the building, and extending from the front line of the lot to the rear yard. So basically, it's from your back fence to your front of your driveway, over to your side of your house from your neighbor. That's where I have my boat parked right now, in my side yard. It's not in my driveway. You guys are talking about driveways. This is not a driveway. So I don't see how I fit into your ordinance here.
Is it to the front of the house?
Yes, it's in front of the house.
And you've cemented the side?
I've cemented the side yard. And the concrete is intact where the street is. It's not dipped down to a driveway still. It's intact how it was built.
So if the ordinance does it with a 6-foot fence, which we'll put there, but yet he said we can have a 6-foot fence coming all the way to the sidewalk.
Yeah. I mean, if you want me to put a 6-foot fence around my boat, I will. I don't have a problem doing that. But you're going to have a fence that comes from the backyard all the way to the front of the sidewalk. Now, you're going to tell me which one's more of an eyesore, my boat, which is kept in good condition and maintained and used quite frequently, or a 6-foot fence extending down to the street.
Okay. Michael, you want to address that, or Chief, you want to address that issue?
This gentleman's, situation is much more unique than the others. Although the section that I added in 2000, or I wasn't here, but the council added in 07, we believe specifically addresses this situation. Parked in the side yard, visible from the street, has to be behind a 6-foot fence. So we may be able to work with this gentleman on his particular unique situation. The question will be, and obviously planning, zoning, not my department, but is there enough the setback, and where can the fence fit there? Those types of issues. But we may be able to resolve this issue, or we may not. But his is very unique compared to the other specific locations that are here tonight. But we're aware of his situation. It would just take some more study by staff to see if he could legally put a fence in at his particular location. Is that about right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I have nowhere else to store my, but it's been there for I've lived here for 10 years, and I've had a boat there for 10 years.
Well, I say this is not a new ordinance, and
It was modified though to include the side yard in
It's been modified
2007.
several times, yeah. Several different instances have come up, and I think the intent of prior councils, long before any of us were on here, was just to try to make sure that our neighborhoods stay free of boats, trailers, RVs, junk cars,
What
etc.
about people painting their houses lime green and people painting their
Yeah.
houses purple?
Well-
I mean, it's the same thing. It's an eye for, it depends on who's looking at what.
And that's the position we have put our CSO in. She has to make a decision, and I it's not really fair for us to tell her, okay, you go out and you decide, what's not attractive or what's an eyesore. The ordinance is written to cover all that stuff. So, and I wish I had a better
No, I understand.
explanation. I wish I had.
What do I do in the meanwhile? What do
Well,
I
I think Chief just said that there might be something we might be able to
work out.
possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. But this council still has to decide whether or not we're going to keep the ordinance as written or if they want to modify it. That's why we're here to discuss it. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wish to address the council?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, this ordinance is for boats, RVs, abandoned cars, trailers, all those things, correct? You're talking about cars that don't run, they're in people's driveways, correct?
We're talking about the whole gamut.
Okay, so she's gonna go around and she's gonna take care of all of these things?
As time permits.
Because, you know what, I understand the whole town, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Town isn't that big. We have 10,000 people plus. She drives around, right?
But you have to understand, she has multiple duties. She has other responsibilities. So and I can just tell you.
I mean, if you guys made a grid and said, you know what, target this area, then target this area, then target this area. Because there are things on my street with cars, and nobody on my street's complained about our boat either.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are people who have names in town who aren't targeted. Whether you think it or not, it happens. Let's be realistic, people. It's who you are and what you are, depending on how you get things done or how you don't. And I'm sorry to say that. This is a real world. It's politics.
Well, I don't know that I would totally agree with that. I can just based on
Well, I
my
just, you know what, I
experience.
just want to get it clear because then I want all of this stuff taken care of. Because if I'm going to be paying a fine and I'm targeted, then I want the people on my street targeted.
And I assure you, if you're willing to write down names, addresses, and phone numbers and present to the police department of your neighbors.
That's not it's not my
but-
job
but,
either.
And that's my point. I don't think that's necessary. I really don't.
It's visible.
But
When you
it's-
drive down the streets, it's visible where boats are,
Yeah.
where cars are that have tags and don't have tags.
Yeah.
It's visible. It's not hard to see. Where a car hasn't moved for over 15 years. My neighbor has a car that hasn't moved for 10 years.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I guess I was being a little facetious. I certainly wouldn't expect you to do that. But I'm also trying to give the benefit of the doubt to the CSO of trying to catch every little thing there is. And that's just like a police officer's not going to be able to catch every speeder.
No, he's not.
And
No,
so
he's
forth,
not.
so on.
I agree with you.
So,
Every drug user, every
Exactly.
person on my street that sells drugs, and it's not possible. And
Yeah.
it's hard for them to do. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But this is a different case. You're talking about something that's visible, not something that's hiding. It's right out there. Everybody sees it. Everybody drives by it.
And this may well be why we are in the position we're in this evening, because of a complaint that may have come in about a
Somebody's
boat.
Exactly.
And so maybe it was targeted and at the time I don't know.
In other cities, they have a length measurement and a height width measurement on how big and how long your boat can be when it's stored in your driveway? Maybe that's an option for boat owners.
It may well be another avenue we look at. I don't know. We're looking for some sort of resolution. It's probably not going to make everybody happy, but if we need to amend our ordinance to tighten it up some more, maybe we need to do that. But it's hard to address, and now I admit, to address an issue when somebody's had a boat in their yard or their driveway for 10 years and hasn't been tagged, and now all of a sudden they have. It wouldn't be the first time I've heard that.
No, I've heard it
So-
many, many times also.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that you guys all understand that you're going to have to affect everybody in this, not just the boat owners. And it has to be every single person in town that has these things.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, can we just remind speakers to state their name and address, please,
Yes.
for the record?
Yes.
So we can-
Yes. Anybody else wish to address the council? 1 minute there.
My name's Bob Edwards. I live on Orchard Creek Drive. My main thing is that, when you're paying property taxes on something, and I've got a cold, so excuse me, but when you're paying taxes on an item, and you can't keep that on your property when it's involved in your property taxes. Now, to distinguish a good boat from a bad boat is a bad boat when I look at one and it's off the trailer sitting up against the fence, or all tires are flattened on it, and you know that boat is probably not even marine worthy. But yet, there's some of us, most of us, that take a little pride in our stuff. And I know the chief was saying something about it was set up or something where a person would call and complain about the neighbor, the citizen would call. Well, why isn't it in effect now? I mean, if my neighbors do not like my boat, I will move it. But I've never had a complaint. And I just don't understand why, the taxes and everything else, and it still comes back and hits you. Now, if you take off and store your boat, it's going to cost me around $75 a month. And I'm retired. And I'm like the other gentleman that's on a fixed salary too, income. But the time you get through with a whole year of taking it off and having it stored, it kind of takes away from the fun of having one when you can just hook on and go, as a pleasure. This isn't a pleasure. It's turning into more of a work when you have to take your boat. Like, I won't store it around here because it's not, I wouldn't take my boat and store it there and have it destroyed. But I would find a place, and there you go again. You have to go get your boat, bring it back, load it up, take it off. If you want to work on your boat, you got to take off and bring it back and work on it. It's just, it's a hassle. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Anybody else? Mr. Reed, did you have? Oh, something.
Yeah, my name's Mike Wellington. I live over on R Street, and like the chief was saying, I do have a $80,000 motorhome, and I take pride in owning it. I didn't know all of the obligations it's taking to upkeep it, but I know when we go out on vacation, we try to bring it over and take a day or two to load it, because you have to turn the refrigerator on. It has to chill out before you can even load that thing. On the other hand, I also was working 7 days a week, so it made it really hard for me to be able to go out, get it, bring it over, have it get ready to go, still come home, have to pack it, go out, make sure you make it back by Friday, because you have a certain time limit to be able to take it out and still be able to put it back into storage. And as far as storage goes, we used to have it right over here where the old Newman tire used to be. And with our other motorhome, we were broken in twice. 2 different times that we were broken into. And another thing that's hard for us is just trying to get any background on a place that you can store it. Like if you called and you say, hey, how many complaints has this place had as far as break-ins, or, you know, what is their stability record on being able to keep something safe that you want to put in there and cover it up and be able to go about your way without thinking, well, okay, am I going to get that call today and somebody's going to break into it and it's going to cost me a payload of money because I can't keep an eye on it. And we have unfortunately moved it from Newman over to another lot to where it's not much better than what it was before, but you know, you got to kind of take a risk at that, because if you try to get a inside covered space, it was for my motorhome $27.50 a square foot, which roughly comes out to be somewhere around $500 a month to store. And that's to put it inside and to lock it down and to make sure nobody can get to it but us. And the inconvenience factor of having to go out and get it and bring it back. I know where we live, it does make an inconvenience because we live right on the corner, and it's harder for the trash truck drivers to get around us and the school bus drivers to get around us. I try to work with that as much as I can. I don't keep it out there like, you know, all hours of the week. But I have had a couple of times where it's been posted to have it moved. I mean, and when it is posted, it says that it has to be moved within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, they'll consider it an abandoned vehicle. I mean, it's an $80,000 rig to me. I mean, there's no spider webs, no dents, no dings, no nothing on this thing. And it's just kind of disheartening to think, well, they're going to force everybody to remove their stuff from the street. I know I have to, because I don't have the side yard, which a lot of homes don't that were built in Newman. They have no side yard. The fences come right up to your house. So I'm just thinking, before the city goes and makes too many citations and stuff, maybe they could come out with some kind of a plan that we could get affordable parking for rigs and boats and RVs that don't put everybody in the poorhouse just trying to store something that they care about. You know, because there's no regulations on the storage lots right now. If you've got a fence and you've got an empty lot, anybody can just pull their stuff in there and store it, but it's at their own risk. I mean, like I said earlier, you can't call anybody to get any background to say, well, I'm not going to freely pull my rig into somebody's lot that's already been broken into 7 times. Like, I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but over at the old Newman tire lot, it's right behind the school buildings over there. And they have physically taken, kids or guys or whoever, have physically pushed the dumpster that sits right there, easy access for them, push it up against the fence. They jump the fence. They've stolen boat motors. They've broken into 7 rigs while we were there. And nobody hears anything. There's houses right behind it, but nobody hears anything. Nobody. There's a camera right there, but uniquely enough, it didn't catch anything. And so the stuff that you lose is just gone. Well, the last time our old motorhome got broken into, before we got our new one, it was over $7,000 to repair. And it's just, I think that somebody should be able to say, okay, well, let's take a piece of Newman and make it available for these people to be able to park their rigs, their boats, their cars that are running, that aren't, you know, junk and clunkers that are just leaking oil and nobody wants to see anymore, before they start handing out citations and saying, well, you've got to move it. As far as I know, I only know of 1 storage lot in Newman. 2 if you want to go with the one that's $500 a month. So I just thought maybe somebody would be able to come up with an idea or some kind of a little bit of helping hand, rather than just to walk up and say, well, here's your notice, you got to move it.
Well, Mike, I'm sure if, when you prepare to go out on vacation with your motorhome and/or upon your return, even under the ordinance, you have 72 hours, but I'm almost willing to bet that if you contacted the police department and asked for some additional time, that they would accommodate you with that before you would even get a notice. A lot of times it's just common sense. People just take a few minutes to call, stop in the police department. Yeah, I'm leaving on vacation. I need to bring my motorhome in to prepare it when I leave. I'm sure you would get that accommodation from the police department.
We have been doing that, not recently, because like I said, I've been working 7 days a week, so it doesn't leave a whole bunch of time to get out and go anywhere. But it also, with our storage companies, every time a company changes hands, they raise the limit that they're charging for you to store your rig, even though you were there before they were, and they're making no new improvements to the property. They'll put it down in black and white on a piece of paper and hand it out to everybody. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to put in electric gates and carded gates and barbed wire and more electric lighting, and none of that's done, but they have the right to raise it, but you don't even have the right to check on their background.
Yeah, well, it's called free enterprise, and I don't think the city can, obviously, we can't tell people how to run their business, that they have to put cameras in and security lights and doors and gates and security guards. And
well, shouldn't there be some kind of, if they're going to operate, it should be like a business. I mean, if they're going to operate a business, shouldn't they be able to provide some kind of security other than just taking an empty lot, throwing a chain link fence around it, saying, here, you can put it in here, but as soon as everybody gets out of school, I'm not going to guarantee that you still have all your stuff left.
yeah, I just don't think that we can regulate them, Mike. I don't think we can legally. If whoever owns the lot downtown chooses to make it available for people to park their boats, trailers, RVs there, and I'm sure the first thing they're going to say, I'm not responsible for theft, damage, fire, and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm going to charge you $500 a month, and if you agree to park it there for $500 a month, then so be it, or your choice is not to park it there. And,
Yeah, but
and you've made that choice because you've moved it somewhere else.
Isn't that kind of getting squeezed between the rock and a hard place, though? Because the city's saying, well, even though you just bought it, and before you buy it, you don't know what the city standards are on where you can park it, how long you can park it, whatever. And then only being one of two spaces, you can spend $60, have it outside, or you can spend $500 a month and have it inside. I mean, I work 7 days a week, but I'm not a rich guy either. I mean, I'm just like everybody else in here. I mean, the last penny in your pocket counts nowadays. And for the city to say, nope, you got to move it, it's like, okay, it's like saying, here, you can move it, but here's the only two places you can move it to. Because there is no other option unless you want to, like the one gentleman said, you move it to Modesto or wherever, Stockton or wherever, and you got to drive all the way out there, get it, bring it all the way back, load it up, take it out, bring it back, unload. Right to this day, I unload everything out of my motorhome. I don't leave nothing in there. Because the last time it got broken into, they took everything. Everything up from underneath our medicine cabinets. I had a pair of fishing shorts that my wife bought me. I love them. Yeah, they even took them, dude. I wouldn't wear somebody else's shorts. I can't believe it. But yeah, they take everything. They don't care that it's somebody else's property.
Yeah.
And I think before somebody is forced to say, well, you've got to move it, why can't we come up with some other option on where we can move it to? There's a lot of property around, and it seems like there's always an option of coming up for green peace and plants and flowers and all kinds of other stuff. Why can't, before the gentleman over here has to take the ugly route and go through attorneys and everything else on it because he has to move it, why can't we come up with more options on where we can move it?
Well, I think we're open for suggestions, Mike, and if you have a better idea and better way of doing things, share that with our staff and try to make something happen. But I don't know that there is a better way, and I'm not in the storage business, so I wouldn't know.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
all right, thanks, Mike. Anybody else wish to address the council? Okay. Dave,
Mayor.
did you have anything?
Mayor, just, excuse me, just a point of clarification, and I know everybody's circumstances are different. You can legally store these boats on your property. It just has to be in your garage or behind a 6-foot fence.
Exactly.
I understand that some people's properties, the side yard's not an option, the rest, but I'm just saying there are options to store it on the legal property. I don't know individual circumstances. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Reed?
Yes, Dave Reed, 1541 Kern. I was around when this
You're
ordinance
responsible.
was passed several years ago, and a lot of it kind of came from our famous storage gate, the storage building thing, and we want to make sure the same thing didn't happen again. So it was kind of spelled out pretty clearly. However, in reference to this young lady's about a height limitation or length limitation, whatever, anything under 42 inches, which could consider it's not the height of a tent trailer or something like that. Could you approve or apply for a zoning exemption from the police department? And if there's nowhere else to store it, and there's several other items here in the ordinance that it spells out, then you could get an exemption to leave it there. But it's not only the aesthetics of the boats or whatever, motorhomes, cars sitting there to drive. It inhibits your visibility trying to back out of your driveway. So that was one of the thoughts behind it. And that was basically all I had to say. Just there was a lot of thought put into this thing, and it was spelled out in pretty good detail, so that there wouldn't be so many questions or this person got a ticket, why didn't I, and all this stuff. And as the mayor was saying, that and for code enforcement was virtually non-existent at the time, but it is. We do have a full-time code enforcement person now, and she does get around, and the police volunteers are going around and checking on different items and reporting them to her so that she can take care of them without having to actually drive around there. So, and look for these things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any other member wish to address the council? Okay, council?
Well, I'm personally in favor of the ordinance. I think it's there for a reason, and unfortunately, it hasn't been fairly administered to the residents, and that's the big problem. And unfortunately, we had a hit and miss proposition where we have boats that probably have been targeted, had been cited, some that haven't. And when you say you've had a boat for 10 years and it's been out of compliance with the ordinance and has never been tagged, then we've failed, because we should have tagged that boat a long time ago. So this is my concern, that, you know, we have failed to inform the citizens of this city when they've been out of compliance. And now we're coming back and we're saying, we're going to tag your boat, it's out of compliance. And they're saying, I've had it there 10 years, you know, and they just don't feel right about it. And I agree with them. But we need an ordinance like this to help our code enforcement officer, to help the police, so when they have to make a decision as far as if something is in compliance or out of compliance, they have these tools. And that's the reason for the ordinance. And I feel real bad about people that have things that like boats and RVs and have to store them. But that's what I feel that you have to do. It's necessary if you own something like that, that you're going to have to store it if you can't physically put it on your property where it's legal.
Thank you, Bob. Nick? Or
I have
Vern,
a
I'm sorry.
question. Twice we've heard about poured cement beside the driveway not being a driveway. What is the difference? If I pour some cement beside my driveway and park something on it, if I park it on the driveway, it's in the same place, basically. It's between the house and the street. So what's the difference?
Michael?
Not much. I mean, you can look at, I think there's some interpretation of the code in which we would like to work with that young couple about.
But that just makes no sense to me. You're blocking view.
Correct.
Backing out, and it's still out there in sight.
Yeah, and there is a vehicle code section that says, and it says front yards or side yards not behind a solid 6-foot fence, and then you can relate back to a section in our code that talks about fences, and nothing in the front of the house can be more than 42 inches. So there's some different ordinances that you have to look at. So that's the way we would have to interpret it. That's why we want to meet with that young couple. And I mean, there's more than one section that applies to them, so we'd like to go over that with them.
And currently, the ordinance does not address necessarily, it doesn't address sizes of boats, correct? It just says boats, trailers.
It's the 42 inches that Mr. Reed addressed.
Right.
And that would be, remember, this ordinance is all recreation vehicles.
Right.
I mean, we're focused on boats tonight, but it's
Right.
all of them at 42 inches or under.
But it does not address the length, just the height, correct?
So as long as it was not sticking out over the sidewalk, that would be a separate violation that would kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Is a tent trailer even 42 inches high? Not all of them.
Some.
I guess it would depend on the size of it.
A small one.
Yeah, I don't know what the dimensions are.
Ours is a cedar with a shell
Yeah.
on it. It's not even a boat.
I guess if we tightened up the ordinance to include lengths, that would probably almost take care of it, but I don't know if we want to do that. I'm open for suggestions, council. Again, I think I'd pretty much say I don't think that we'd be doing ourselves a favor to modify the ordinance.
No.
So.
No.
What would be the council's suggestion, that we sell our boats? Get rid of all recreational vehicles?
Bob, I don't think that's not our place to make that decision. I'm not a boat owner, and
Making a decision for us, but we
Yeah.
have to go out and pay another $1,200 a year to park it someplace.
Paying property taxes on, do whatever you want.
Well, and you pay property taxes on a boat also. So that's considered a piece of property. So you're paying property taxes on your home, and then you're paying property taxes on a boat that you're still storing on your property that you pay for. And then this is black and white, and it's a perception of someone else's perception. You said that your CO or whatever she's called goes out there, and she's the one that decides what's ugly and what's not.
No, I don't think she's making a decision what's ugly, what's not. I think she's making the decision if it falls under the ordinance. If it's an RV, if it's a recreational vehicle, it falls under that ordinance. She's not saying, that bass boat is uglier than the ski boat. She's not making that determination.
Mayor, we may want the speaker to come up so we can get them on the mic. I'm sorry.
Okay. Council?
Well, I'm in favor of maintaining the ordinance as is. It is now written. I have a recreational vehicle myself. It's a 27-foot pull trailer. It's in storage. I pay $600 a year, $50 a month. So, in Gustine. And so I knew that when I got that recreational vehicle that I couldn't store it. And I do exactly what the chief says. I have 72 hours to load it up, and if I take longer than that, I ask him for an extension. He gives it to me, and I do the same thing when I come back from vacation so I can unload it and clean it up. So.
Any other comments? Okay. So then it's consensus of the council then that we leave the ordinance intact?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Consensus? Okay. The ordinance is gonna be left intact, and the only thing for the people who have the outstanding citations, I would suggest that you get with the chief and try to make arrangements to take care of it one way or the other. There's due process available to you, so I would encourage you to use that. Okay. Move on to item C, report on Stevens Avenue parking issues. Chief?
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, Council. This particular issue is as you heard last meeting from a resident of Stevens Avenue, has been a long occurring issue as well that we're going to attempt to resolve tonight, hopefully with your direction. This is just a discussion item. It won't necessarily be any action. It'll just be direction for us to either create or modify an existing parking ordinance to add this in, or if your wishes are otherwise to leave it alone, then we won't bring it back before you. You heard from a resident last time about mostly it's people that are visiting Oristemba High School, whether it's students or faculty. In most cases, it is both. Parking in front of the residences, leaving litter, creating other nuisances, and prohibiting vendors or service trucks from visiting the homes or even the residents' personal visitors. We have met with the residents of Stevens Avenue and the school district as well. Public Works is involved. We believe we've addressed all the stakeholders in this issue, and we're of consensus, and we would recommend that you would direct us to modify an existing parking ordinance and add in permit parking only on this particular street. We believe we have a system that would work, and that each resident would be issued a parking permit that'd be affixed to their vehicle, so they couldn't hang them and trade them around to friends. Or I know some, you could park in front of my house when you're going to school. It'd be affixed in the window. Perhaps each residence maybe would get up to 4. We'd have them numeric numbered, so we would know the permit goes with this address. You also heard from the residents that they are willing to pay for this initiative, as it died last time in late fall because of lack of city funds to do this. So it'd be the police department's recommendation that we move forward with this under the condition that the residents would have to pay. We would anticipate that around between $1,000 to $1,200 for the total cost of the project would include the signs, the permits, and Public Works is offered to put in the time to install the signs. So we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have or any concerns. And I think there are some people from Stevens Avenue as well. I sent out letters back in the fall to every address asking for comments or opposition, pro or against. I did the same again prior to this meeting, and did not receive any negative comments, although I did not speak with all 10 houses. There was no negative comments. The only calls I did receive was in support of it, and the school district as well. One final thing I believe that makes this a bit unique, because I know the council is concerned about setting precedents in other neighborhoods or other school sites, but I think makes this one unique is that there is places for these people to park. They're just choosing not to utilize it. There's ample parking on the Oristemba campus, and it's a matter of convenience that staff and students are parking at this particular location versus the, maybe it's Von Renner or Hunt or the other locations. There isn't, because of their older campuses or just the nature of the neighborhood. There isn't the necessary parking on site, so it forces them into the neighborhood. So this is a different situation. And lastly, we believe this would enhance campus safety. Obviously, if somebody wanted to do something, they're going to probably do it. But it does give us another tool. If a bad guy, was going to bring a weapon to school, knowing that their vehicles are subject to search on the campus, they can intentionally park off-site. And everywhere else around there is already prohibited. This is sort of the last piece of the puzzle here that we would be closing up that loophole. Forcing them onto the campus gives us another tool to access their cars for weapons, drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be. So just sort of the one other little piece of support for that. So happy to answer your questions that you may have.
Chief, I see in your report that you addressed the issue of RC, and I think I would tend to agree with you that if we push people over on RC, they're going to, that's kind of defeat the purpose of being close to campus. But there might,
We're a little nervous. What the mayor's referring to is, our hope obviously is we're pushing them to the campus. There is a chance that we could push them around the corner onto our street. But I've walked that area, and those maybe are familiar with it. The driveways for those corner houses are close to the corner. So you might get one car there at the corner, but you're going to really have to go down our street. And I think we're probably past the point of, convenience at that
Right.
point. At least we hope that it'll be too far down our street. You might as well just park in the parking lot because you're walking farther. So we may get one or two there. We'll obviously have to see how that goes if we move forward. But I think you're going to kind of cross that point that you're creating a worse situation for you having to walk farther than if you just parked on campus. And you can't see your cars around the corner. It's probably less secure.
Chief, and it's going to be it's going to be a tollway area, correct?
Well, we actually didn't talk about that. We would have to specifically put that in the ordinance. The existing signs on Hardin, just during school hours, no parking. If we left it like that, it would just be citation.
I think we ought to make it a tollway area.
We could certainly, if that's the council's direction, we could add that in addition to the parking violation is subject to removal.
Because
as well.
if they're issued a citation, I mean the car remains there. But if it's a
It's an
tollway
awful
area,
expensive parking place for the day.
yeah, and it's even more expensive when it's towed.
It's up to the council, obviously. It's like the last situation. We're sort of stuck in the middle with whatever you direct us to enforce, we'll enforce. And so,
Well,
if
Mr.
that's what the
Wellington,
council would like to
Mr.
see.
Wellington's probably not happy over the boat and RV vehicle, but he's probably going to be happy over this. So we probably found a happy medium. Mike?
The only other thought I had was, is during school hours, what about football games? Because we
Yeah,
live right on the
yeah,
park.
yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah, I think the issue that we're addressing is during school hours. That seems to be the prevalent issue and problem is during school hours, students and quite honestly, I'm still surprised that that the school can't make staff park on campus and that a staff member would argue with a resident that.
I was there this morning, the public works director and I, and there was staff members parking there this morning.
Yeah. So anyway. Okay, council, it's been brought, it's a informational item. It's council's pleasure.
Tonight, we would just need direction. We
Yeah,
would have to
I'm in
re-agendize
favor
it,
of-
bring it back as an ordinance,
Right.
a second reading, so.
I would be in
Everybody concurs?
Yeah, I'm in favor of bringing it as an ordinance,
I
yeah.
think it's,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, we want to clarify, you do want just school hours, and you do want tow-away?
Yes.
I would think during school hours and
Monday through Friday,
whatever,
Seven to
7
a.m.
to 4 p.m. tollway.
Okay, not Friday night, don't address,
The Friday night football
make it
games,
difficult
that's a nightmare down there anyway. The whole area is a nightmare on Friday night, so I don't know what you can do. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
but I think
it'd be tough to write, education, how would a person, how do you fit all that on a sign?
Yeah.
During home football games,
Yeah,
I mean, it'd
yeah.
get kind of muddy.
I think the residents are going to be probably pretty tickled just to get this far.
Okay, so we'll bring that back next
Yep.
meeting with those ordinance
Yep.
changes.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody happy with that? Okay.
That'd be great if you could park in front of our house, yeah, we have a little space.
Okay, we'll move to item D. Adopt resolution number 2010, next to number, resolution awarding the 2010 sewer pump station SCADA additions project to Telstar Instruments Incorporated for the amount of $83,671.
Guess they don't want to stick around for my riveting.
Wow, you cleared them out.
I have a tendency to do that. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The item for you tonight is to consider to award a contract to Telstar Instruments Incorporated for a 2010 sewer pump station SCADA additions project. SCADA stands for Supervisor Control and Data Acquisition. Basically what it is computers can control your utility infrastructure. Currently we have this technology in our water department where we monitor and control our wells and our pressures throughout the system. This project would be similar to that, but we would do this on our sewer pump stations. This will give us the ability to monitor the pump stations, record the data, system information. It would also enable us to send alarms to either our computers and our phones or both. So that if we're sitting at home after hours, midnight, something happens to one of our pump stations, it sends us an alarm that it's not working, and then we can respond quickly with that. As we stand right now, the only thing that happens is a red light comes on, and we don't know about it till the next morning. This will give us the opportunity to prevent future sanitary sewer overflows, which is required as part of our permits through the state. In addition to that, because we don't have any computerized monitoring, we have to go out every day to check these lift stations to see that they're operating properly and we have no plugs. And so it takes a considerable amount of staff time. So as you can see in my staff report, I addressed the possibility of how many staff hours that it would save us that we could utilize for other functions. We anticipate approximately 572 hours of staff time because we spend about 3 hours a day checking each and every one of these lift stations to make sure we're not having a problem. The Public Works Department advertised for bids on March 11th. We received a total of 3 bids for this project. Telstar Instruments came in at $83,671. Tesco Controls was $92,500, and Houck Systems was $133,000. The engineer's estimate for this project was $100,000. Therefore, the Public Works Department recommends that Telstar Instruments has been determined to be the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $83,671. Therefore, staff recommends to council to award the bid to Telstar Instruments for the 2010 sewer pump station SCADA additions project. At this point, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions of Garner? Council direction?
I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 210, next number, a resolution awarding the 210 service pump station SCADA additions project to Telstar Instruments for $83,621.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item E is adopt resolution number 2010, next to number, a resolution initiating proceedings for a proposed increase of assessments within the City of Newman Landscape and Lighting District, the levy and collection of assessments therein, and ordering the preparation of an assessment engineer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is, as you stated, consider adopting a resolution initiating the proceedings for the proposed increases to the assessment districts within the City of Newman Landscape and Lighting District, and to authorize the engineer's filing of the engineer's report, preparation of the engineer's report. I apologize. Just a little bit of background. The Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972 establishes the requirements for the assessment of the district for agencies within, I'm sorry, I got distracted a little bit, providing for the installation, operation, and maintenance of certain public improvements within the city. Some of these public improvements include landscape areas, parks, playground equipment, graffiti removal, block walls, and sidewalks and things of that nature. These assessment districts have to have a nexus which includes a benefit to the areas that they're in. Some of these benefits include increasing land values, creating a sense of community, identity, and pride. For example, localized street lighting. Localized street lighting, it helps to mitigate crime, potentially reduces traffic accidents, contributes to the visual pleasing nighttime image, promotes social interaction. For example, localized landscaping provides for the life, growth, health, and beauty of the landscaping within those areas. Parks and landscape areas help ensure we can conserve land, energy, and resources. Another benefit would be to properly maintain landscape areas, parks, enhances communities and enhance property values. And the general benefits that you receive within these communities would be improved livability, the appearance and desirability of the properties. Also ensuring that the improvements are maintained in a healthy state. There's no deterioration or disrepair within those. An example, graffiti. We don't have a large graffiti problem in the city, but we take pride in keeping our graffiti at a minimum. We try to get out and respond within 24 to 48 hours. We prefer not to have this, but we prefer to have these types of landscape areas. Sherman Parkway and Canal School Road are examples of what most communities prefer to live in. It's a nice benefit to the assessment. Assessment districts also provide for the maintenance operations and amenities within these parks, Sherman Park, Borba Park, and Janet Carlson Park. These amenities are maintained through the assessment districts that are paid each year through the property taxes. The City of Newman's Landscape and Lighting Districts. Originally they were established in 1985. Currently we have 15 zones within the district. Zones 1 through 12 have not had increases since their inception into the districts, and zones 13 through 15 have an annual 3% increases since their inceptions. Most of these districts provide for 3 basic improvements. They provide for street lighting, landscape areas, and parks. However, at this time, we have an option if we want to include other improvements that are allowed under the Landscape and Lighting Act for block wall repair and replacement, graffiti abatement, potentially sidewalks, storm drainage, and maintenance and replacement. What I propose to council tonight is that I'll put together an estimate on what it would cost to include some of these into the assessment districts and come back to you in 2 weeks and provide that information to you. And at that time, if you decide you could include those or not include those, but I'll provide an estimate to you to review and for your consideration and your direction. Next steps in this process tonight, we're talking about initiating the process for the assessment districts and authorizing the preparation of the engineer's report. If council so desires, in 2 weeks, I can come back and give you an engineer's estimate of what it would take to include some of these amenities into the districts. And then on May 11th, the council can review, consider the engineer's report, authorize the balloting measure, and at that time establish the tentative date, which we have proposed, of July 13th for a public hearing for this process. At this time, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions of Garner?
Garner, why wouldn't we have the costs right now before we adopt this resolution?
We haven't put all the engineer's report together yet. This is
Okay.
just to initiate the proceedings to do that report. So what I'm asking you tonight is, yes, go ahead and prepare that report, which I will do. But in the meantime, before you adopt that report, I'll come back in the interim and provide you with an update. This is what we're looking at before you actually adopt that. So this is just, you're just authorizing us to initiate the proceedings to do the engineer's report. We've started preliminary putting the numbers together, but I don't have anything final for you yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Council direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2010, a resolution initiating proceedings for proposed increase of assessments within the City of Newman Landscape and Lighting District, the levy and collection of assessments therein, and ordering the preparation of assessments engineer's report.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Garner.
Thank you, sir.
We'll go to item F, report on employee home loan program.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2007, the City Council instituted a employee home loan program. This was a program that had been tossed around for a number of years within our community. I think it originated within our police department and then ultimately went to citywide, and that's the way it was adopted in 2007. It was a citywide program. It was originally funded with $200,000, which would have provided up to 5 loans of $40,000, which was the maximum at the time. Within the first 2 years, we were able to fund four loans and help our employees secure home ownership within our community. And some of those had come from outside the community. When no one else came forward at the time, we made a recommendation to the council to go ahead and suspend that program and put the $40,000 back into the general fund reserve. Well, attached to your report, we have we now have another employee who would like to move to our community from an outside community. This is a long tenured employee that has been with our community and under our employment for a number of years. So with that, I decided, upon having that conversation with him, I asked him to go ahead and submit his letter to you, and I would bring that forward to you, and that's what we're doing tonight. Should the council elect to move forward with this, we would take the $40,000 out of our general fund reserve that we put back in and make that monies available to this employee. We would not be approving any additional funds above the original $200,000 amount that was approved by the council. To date, again, we've had 4 loans that go out. We've at least one employee has started making payments on that, so we've recouped some of our money already. As you may recall, there's a number of years where you are interest-free and no payments, no interest, and that was designed to allow the employee to progress within their salary range, and then that would offset some of the cost and allow them to make these payments later on in their career. So, with that, I can answer any questions they may have or any comments.
Questions, comments? Well, I certainly think I support 100%, and I was, not pat myself on the back, but I was a huge proponent of this years ago, and I still stand by it today. I think the more we can encourage our employees to move and live within our community, the better off we are. And so I would gladly support moving that $40,000 out of general fund that was originally tapped for this purpose. And if we can help one of our employees, I support 100%.
I concur.
Yes.
That's fine.
All right. Council concurrence is then that we support the home loan program, move the $40,000 that was left out of that fund that was transferred into general fund, put it back in the home loan program fund. Is that correct? Is there a motion, please? I'm sorry. Got all excited.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Martina.
I second it.
Roberta, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Randy. Item G, consideration of method for filling city council vacancy created by the resignation of Councilmember Kelly.
Mayor and council, I'll go ahead and take that. As a result of the resignation of Councilmember Kelly, the council has a vacancy. Councilmember Kelly's position was set to expire in November 2010. You have two options for filling the vacancy. One is you can make an appointment. That's a little difficult at this point in the fact that you had 30 days from the time the vacancy was effective, which I believe was 21 days ago. So if you wanted to go that route, you'd have to have a special meeting and in the meantime get all the applications, etc. If you don't do that, it automatically goes to election. And that election can't be less than 114 days from the date of the vacancy. So it lines up with that November election date with the filing opening in July. But again, you do have the option of filling it by appointment. And that person, if they decided to run full term, excuse me, would be noted on the ballot, appointed incumbent.
Council,
I would wait till November for the election. I think that's the fairest thing to do for the community.
well, I think that also the fact that this council has worked well together and we're not always unanimous, but, you know, I think that with issues that we have in place, you know, we're going in a positive direction. I would concur. I'd just soon just wait and put it on the ballot, and somebody wants to go through the process, then let's do that. Everybody concurs?
Concur.
So we're gonna let it.
Okay, that being the case, we will contact the elections office, confirm that we just want to consolidate that, this vacancy with the general election. I don't see any problem with that.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. We'll move to item 11, items from District 5 Supervisor Jim DeMartini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. Tomorrow morning, I'll be leaving for Washington, D.C. With one of the other supervisors, as in our CEO, Rick Robinson, and one staff member. We're going to do a variety of things there, but the thing that's of importance, probably to Newman, is that we're going to try and secure the money necessary to complete the planning for the Orris-Timber Creek flood control project. We just have to constantly keep going back and getting money for this project. We put in about $3 million already in county money, so this is a priority for Stanislaus County to get this project done. It's of course been I forget how many years in the planning process now. I think 12 or 14. But we're really close now to getting out of the planning process once we jump through the latest hoops that the Corps of Engineers has given us. So we will have a series of meetings for not very many projects that we're after, but this is, I believe we have 4 projects that we're trying to get money from. This is one of them. So I'll let you know in the next meeting how we did. But we just have to constantly be there to keep this project moving and to be able to get the money to pay for this additional planning. Someday we're going to get this project planned and we're going to go into design. And that will be, another series of money that we'll have to get, but I would really like to see us get out of this planning process and into design as soon as possible. If we ever ran out of money now, we'd really be in trouble. Once it stops, it's hard to get it started again. So anyway, we'll be doing that. As far as the West Side Healthcare Task Force, the meeting that we have on April 29th is being moved from Gustine to Patterson, and that is okay with Gustine. We generally go Patterson, Newman, Gustine, then go back again. The reason for the change this time is that the Del Puerto Healthcare District has bought a building in Keystone Park, and it just happens that the day that we had planned for the Healthcare Task Force to meet coincides with their opening of their building, although they're still got a long ways to go in there yet, and so we've just decided to go ahead and move the meeting over to Patterson, and then we'll go to Gustine the next time. So that will be April 29th. I know Council Member Kelly was one of the task members. I don't know if you've appointed somebody else to take his place, but if Councilman Candy is one, we'd still like to have two if we could. But that's up to you. Oh, you're the...
I'd like to volunteer my services. If the council...
Downey.
Yeah,
Thank
it's the
you,
mayor's
Bob.
appointment, so.
Yeah,
We have two council members from each city, along with healthcare districts and hospitals and in the Keystone Business Park.
Councilmember Martina has gracefully accepted the role of Ted Kelly.
Okay, great.
Can you reword that?
That's a big shoes to fill. Just next time we go do the weigh-in, don't be backing out prior to the weigh-in.
No, I didn't back out.
No,
He's
you did.
the one that backed
That's
out.
what I'm saying.
Okay, well, that's great that we have two back from Newman now on the task force. We are going to do a lot of things, and we will do another Biggest Loser contest. Our CEO staff member Keith Boggs has talked to all three school districts again about the essay contest. This was just done within the last 2 weeks. The essay contest, the drawings for the new calendar for next year. We will be doing another healthcare summit sometime this summer like we did last year at Newman, and the Biggest Loser contest too. So this group is really doing things. We've got some commitments of some funding for some of our projects from Emmanuel Hospital and Doctors Hospital and the county. So we have a little bit of money now. We don't need a real lot, but I think we have enough to continue on, because there is some cost involved in the calendar and some of the things that we do. Keith Boggs is continuing to write for grants. I talked to him today, and he was going to apply for another grant for medical equipment from somebody else. And I just wanted to also remind you again of this Healthy Choices. This is part of the task force project. It's hikes and bikes for your health. And I did go on one of the hikes. That's not something that I normally would do, but it was on March 27th. I was there in Del Puerto Canyon, and we hiked along the Del Puerto Creek. It is, as long as I've lived in this area, I've never been down in that area and walked along the creek. And it was, we had somebody from the Patterson Parks and Recreation Department who was leading the group. And it was really quite enjoyable. So it is, we have other ones that coming up. The hikes are the fourth Saturday of each month. The next one is April 24th, and then May 22nd would be the last one. For those who like to bike, it is the third Saturday of each month. Next one being April 17th and May 15th, and then June 19th would be the last one. So this is just a part of staying healthy and exercising And then we will do the Biggest Loser contest for us eating right. So, anyway, that's what we're doing. So the hikes along Del Puerto Creek are really surprisingly nice. It's we've had so much rainfall this year that it's just as green as could be, and it's just beautiful down there. So the next one is a little bit on the strenuous side, and then the one in May is a moderate one. I think that's the one I'll go on. It depends on how much hiking that you do, but generally it's about a 3-hour hike, and it's something well worth doing in a very beautiful area. Okay, that's everything I have, unless you have any questions about something.
Any questions, Jim? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, items from city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that we're doing spring cleanup week here in Newman, and that's open to all Newman residents. Please bring a copy of your utility bill and your driver's license, and that occurs on M Street, north of Merced. That'll go through Saturday.
When is it, this week through Saturday?
It's this week through Saturday. That's correct. I believe tomorrow and Thursday are till about 5:50, 5:45. It'll be open. And then Friday and Saturday till about 3:45. Roughly 3:45, 3:50
On Friday and Saturday?
on Friday and Saturday. And then they have the late ones tomorrow and Thursday. There will also be household hazardous waste. Sometimes we paint our houses, we paint rooms, we have paint left over, we have brake oil, used oil, chemicals, cleaning solutions, things you just can't get rid of. This is an opportunity to do that. That'll be on April 16th and 17th. That's Friday and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that's at 712 Fresno Street in front of the Corp Yard.
Michael, will that be in the paper?
It's been in the paper in the past, and I believe they'll probably do one more run this time. Yes.
It's been in for a number of weeks.
It's been in for, yes.
Thank you, Dean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we also have flyers in our lobby, so it's highly publicized. Miss Matos spoke of the Newman Downtown Flower Power Coalition. Again, that's just a reminder that that'll be occurring on Saturday at 8 a.m. We've been very fortunate. 2 summers ago, we had a Newman resident who has now gone off to college, who attends the University of Southern California. She came in and did an internship for us, and during that internship, she did a newsletter and did some website work for us and did a few other things. Well, she contacted us, and she's a media major and has offered to do another newsletter for us, free of charge. So that will be occurring over probably the next 6 weeks or so, or 8 weeks ago, and then we're going to probably try to do a mass mailer with it and get that out. So each department will be coming up with a story. As of last time, we had the West Side Theater in there. Had a couple of events showing up for them. Reminding people of our website, reminding people of the recreation programs that we offer, computer classes and all like, and also inviting them to go to our website as we try to keep that current. And you can always find new stuff on there. It's not updated daily, but you know, at least every week or every other week, there's at least new information on there. So on April 20th, and that'll be a week from today, we will be having a meeting in the council chambers regarding our downtown plaza project. It's primarily focused on our downtown businesses, but it's open to everybody, and we're just trying to get out in front of the downtown plaza project, which is going to be breaking ground in June of this year, July of this year. We want to go over the project with the businesses, start talking to them about parking strategies. What we will be doing as a city, we will be identifying places that are not on Main Street or the side streets that our contractors and their employees can park, to try to free up as much parking as possible for patrons of our downtown businesses and the like. Go over the schedule with them and tell them how we're doing it. It'll be an opportunity for them to ask questions of our staff and also to provide comments. We anticipate there may be a follow-up meeting with the group again if we cannot answer all their questions, and as we get closer to actually breaking ground and maybe have a little bit more detailed information for them. The census forms are past due. If you have not sent them in, please do. It's important to our community that you send those in. Lots of tax dollars are based upon information and numbers that are provided within the census. So please take the time to do that if you have not done that already. Early June, I believe it's the first Sunday, which would be the 6th. We will be reinstituting the city softball game. It's a 4-department tournament. So we will be looking towards the council to see
June
if
when?
6. We will be looking towards the council. Please let me know if you're available to play, if you have any daughters that play, because
You want ringers, is what you're saying.
we just need players. We're just, City Hall's limited on our staff size, so we go out and we have fun, and it's been fun in the past. So, but that'll occur on June 6th. So please keep that in mind, Mayor.
Gotcha.
Today you approved the consolidated plan that also included home. I want you to know that the Corporation for Better Housing, the project that's on M Street behind the car wash, actually has building permits pulled. They use the home funds to pay for those building permits. They come in, so some of that money comes back in and employs people within our community by doing that. It's $233,000 is what came back. And we do have Planning Commission this Thursday as an update on that. And I believe that's all that I had at this time, unless you have any questions for me.
I have no questions except our designated first baseman won't be able to play this year. My second granddaughter or grandson is on the way.
And when's that due?
September.
September. So you got plenty of time.
Okay. Staff. Chief must be out working on that new sign for the Stevens Arhead.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a few items for you tonight, just to give you some update on some of the projects that Public Works has been working on for you lately. Hill Park, the park site that's going in, looks like hydro seeding is getting really close. The weather kind of delayed us a little bit, but we're hoping that, weather permitted, we could get that hydro seeded probably starting next week and get the seed germinating, and then we'll be doing a walkthrough to start the maintenance period on that part of the project. Hill Park Project 1B is what we've been determined. The Hill Park parking lots, we have a pre-construction meeting on that project coming up, I believe it's Thursday. And then Hill Park Phase 1C, which is the sidewalks and safe routes to school surrounding Hill Park project. We have starting the bidding process. It starts April 15th to move that project along quickly. And so that by the time we get done, we'll have all the sidewalks in, a safe routes to school project that Stephanie's able to get a grant for to help the kids transition through that area. Have the play apparatus is already installed, and then we'll have the parking lots, and hopefully sometime this summer we can get the fences taken down to get that project in park usable. Pioneer Park landscaping, this is a project that Stephanie again got us some money for through her CDBG consortium. That project will be bidding on Thursday. We're going to do some additional landscaping improvements around Pioneer Park. Oristimba Flood Control Project, we did go out with an RFP for the soil borings, and I have that information. We haven't officially released the results of that. We're still evaluating the bids, and the city manager and will be getting together and bring an item to council on that probably April 27th. The Plaza Project, we had a pre-bid meeting, mandatory pre-bid meeting on April 7th. We had 8 contractors attend the meeting. It's not a lot, but the contractors that attend seem to be ones that are familiar with the project. We did a site walk around with the project, had some good feedback. We've issued a few addendums to the project. That project bids May 27th, I believe. And in addition to that, Caltrans contacted our city about doing a pre-audit of our paperwork in order to ensure that we cross all our T's and dot all our I's for the federal funding portion of this project. So they came in and spent 2 hours with us going through all our paperwork, ensuring we have everything in order, and they gave us a very high rating. Every question they asked, we had an answer for. There wasn't anything they asked us that we didn't have already something planned to do. Quality assurance plan, our proper sampling, and our paperwork in line already. And so we got very high regards on that. They're also going to come in midway through the project and do another audit for us. It's kind of a courtesy review, just in case the project gets audited anywhere between now and 3 years after the project's constructed, that we make sure we have everything in a row and that we have everything we've done to ensure we don't lose our federal funding for this project.
Did you ask Caltrans why they're here when they're gonna finish Highway 33?
That was a different portion from Caltrans. Last I heard from Caltrans regarding that project is they need the temperatures to get approximately 90 degrees. So that's unfortunately going to be, I would anticipate sometime in May or June before they do that. Unfortunately, it's going to be about the time we're probably going to be breaking ground on the Plaza project. And that kind of, again, presents its own issues, but we'll take care of that. But that's kind of the update I have for you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Questions of Garner? Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy, you up next?
Evening, Mayor, City Council. Unfortunately, my first item is tragic and sad. Update on the child drowning that occurred earlier last week. The child's condition has took a turn for the worst and is now, the prognosis is now day to day. We'll keep you updated. With that, I would like to remind everybody as summer approaches to take care of your kids, protect your kids, safeguard your pools, do the necessary things to prevent these things from occurring. Secondly, the Animal Control Clinic is scheduled for May 1st from 9 to 12 in Pioneer Park. That's all I have. Answer any questions?
I thought, well, the last time we got from Chief that the child had done really well and just
Earlier in the day, it took a turn for the worse.
Wow. Wow. That's sad. That's sad. Any questions of Sergeant Richardson? Thank you, sir. Stephanie, anything? Okay. Roberta, anything?
That's nice.
Nick?
Nothing tonight.
Bob? I have nothing. So we'll adjourn to a closed session. Public employee personnel evaluation, city manager, and Government Code 54957.6. Public employment, police chief, Government Code 54957. Conference with labor negotiator, operating engineers, local 3, miscellaneous bargaining unit, Government Code 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiator, operating engineers, local number 3, police bargaining unit, Government Code 54957.6. Conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, 1 case, Government Code 54956.9. We are adjourned to closed session.